Thank you as always to our studio audience, and thank you to our viewing audience at home. Welcome to another edition of the IB Film Show. I, as always, am your host, David Shotwell, and I'm here today with SD Productions, who has just wrapped on their latest picture, Echo. Sitting immediately to my left is the picture's director, Sophia Bowman. And immediately to her left is the picture's cinematographer, Delia Doherty. Hi, welcome back.
Hi.
It's good to see the two of you as always.
Thank you for having us.
It's our pleasure. So Echo is a brief film, a really interesting film, a culmination in a lot of ways of many things that the two of you have learned over your long career of making these pictures in IB Film together, which is pretty cool, and a nice encapsulation, I think, of both of your styles in many ways. I wanted to start on that topic with you, Sophia. So as the director, you handled a bunch of things involved in the production of this film, the planning of this film, a lot of things in post. I wanted to ask you how did you approach building and maintaining tension in this film through specifically the editing and the sound decisions that you made?
Well, because it was like a horror and a thriller, and although I am the director, we mainly collaborated on doing editing and sound, and when we were really approaching it, it was prioritizing, like, making sure that we had pacing correct, and being able to, like, make it kind of sound eerie, because although we shot during the day, and a lot of things are, like, in a lot of bright lights, and it's different than regular horror that's usually like darker and a lot more like moody.
Sure.
We really wanted to use like pacing to our advantage. So like when there's any sort of like abrupt cuts from like me, like a close up of me, then to a random like open wide shot of me in like a parking lot, like we really carry tension through maybe sound of like we have like an eerie string play
and a few parts of the film.
And then it echoes out. And it's kind of, repeated. He used it like a bunch of times, but it still makes it sound like kind of like eerie, and we use minor chords, so it sounds like there's something like wrong about it, although it's in bright daylight, so it kind of,
it's interesting. I having seen the film in its like production stages before some of that sound went in, it was really surprising to me how much of a difference that makes. It almost makes parts you hadn't realized were gonna be scary into some of the scariest parts of the film.
Yeah, because at first it might seem like a little awkward because it's kind of just like a cut, and you're just like, is this supposed to be scary? But once you add sound, it really adds to it.
I think this film's a great example of that.
Yeah, it just makes it less awkward, I feel.
Sure, the collision of editing and sound creates this effect that individually those components don't really do.
Yeah, and then if even some things are like longer takes, there's still, like the sound helps it, even if you don't really notice it. It's not something that usually people pick up on, but if you watch it like time and again, you'll like see more and more details are added that just helps it be like a little scarier, I guess.
Yeah, terrific. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the sound and editing together is really your question about building tension. Those are the two main elements that really do that in this film in combination. Delia, speaking of the production of the film and your specific role behind the camera, so the cinematography is, and I know this is quite deliberate, fairly simple throughout the whole thing. And I wanted to ask you about that. What was your intention in filming mostly simplistic shots throughout the film, and how do you think it contributes to the overall tone of the production?
Yeah, I chose mostly simple shots because I wanted to just create like a sense of unease and stillness throughout the whole film. And I also didn't want the audience like getting lost. I wanted their eyes to be on the film like the entire time they watch, and like not only pay attention to Sophia, who's the main focus, but like all the small details surrounding her that might not be noticeable at first. And then like as Sophia was saying with the sound, I think it pairs with the simplicity because like she was saying, it's very eerie, instrumental, and it like overpowers the quietness of the film, and because there's like no dialogue, or there's very little dialogue, so again it just builds suspense overall.
Sure, yeah. And it's interesting, I mean the editing does so much, like Sophia was discussing, of the work, that it kind of makes a lot of sense that you've pulled a lot of the artifice out of the camera work and kind of left the editing to do a lot of that work with the simplicity you built. I think that's neat. So before we check it out, this will be the last production for the two of you as IB Film students. And I wanted to give you an opportunity here at sort of the end of this 2-year road to think a little bit about well, I guess my question to end would be, what sort of filmmaker at this moment would you consider yourself to be? And how do you think that's reflected in this last film you just made? And Sophia, you can start with that, and then we'll jump over to Delia.
Well, like similar to what Delia was saying about the cinematography, although it is simple, I also think like just filmmaking in general, just approaching it from a simple like point of view is also really good, because it gave us time to like just organize things instead of just being in a jumble.
Yeah.
And like coming at it with a simple approach, like it's very it's not slow, but there's not really like crazy intense like movement scenes or anything like that, and we made sure that that was easier for us to organize and just get footage for. And through each like element of film, like editing, cinematography, sound, all of it is quite simple, but when you put it together, it's just there is like an intensity to it, and it's just more significant. But overall, I think that I'm more of a simple filmmaker.
Well, and it leaves your stuff, and I think this is a good example of it, feeling very well planned. You know, because you're not juggling so many moving components. And this is a terrific example of a film that feels very carefully, you know, constructed before it was actually shot. Delia?
I feel like I'm kind of just open to trying like new things when it comes to film. Like, I feel like a lot of times, because Sophia and I like shared the editing a lot during this film, and I was kind of just playing around with different settings, and like we thought some shots would be unfixable, but then really some of the shots that I made actually was like a cool and creative way to like fix it and make it better. So.
I remember during the editing you guys almost realizing what you could do with some of this footage that you'd never really planned or intended, until we actually sat down and were trying different effects with it, which was really cool. So spontaneity on display here. To that end, should we check it out? All right, great. So without any further ado, SD Productions' latest picture, Echo. We hope you enjoy.
Okay, bye. Have a good day.
Okay, bye.
Sophia, what are you doing?
Sorry, I just...
Sophia, are you coming?
Yeah, yes, sir.
It's Sophia. It's 6-ish. I had to run back out. I know you're not home. I should be back within a half hour. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye. Love you.
Everything okay?
All right, thanks so much to both of you for coming in today, and thanks as always to our viewing audience at home. This has been another episode of the IB Film Show. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.